Welcome guys. Today I'm going to cover an important topic on call, apply and bind methods. These are basically used to pass in arguments to functions. But you must be wondering why we don't just directly pass arguments, why we need these separate methods to pass arguments to a function. So let's just cover the use case, why JavaScript ended up having these. So call apply bind.js. Let me just create one file. And let me also just call it over here, call apply bind.js. Let's say over here I have a function which basically registers user with the email comma password. After registering, it just returns these two as an object. Okay. Now, and I also have a function login, and it will log in with some username comma password. And let's just console.log username comma password. Or just to look it nicer, let's say we will log it as username and password is password. So far so good. So let's say I just want to register the user first. So I would just catch whatever the registered username and password is. Let user details equal to register the user with git at lab.com, and let's say the password is password. Now I have user details. Then what I can do is I can also call login method with my details dot username comma details dot password. Okay, so let's just see what is on console now. Username is undefined and password is 123 for what happened. Okay guys, so it is email, sorry, it is not a username. So from registered method we had an object returned which is email. So this is now username and password. So far so good guys. So let's just see another use case. What if I don't want to call a login in this manner? So what if I have a method which is invoking this login, right? So I have a function which invokes login. So since this function will invoke login, it will accept a function, right? And then it will call that function, right? So let's say I have a function just to invoke login. So this is not a real-time example, guys. So this is something that that will help you in understanding the logic behind this apply, call and bind. So I have a function to invoke this function, and then I'm passing it a function, and which is again calling that function. So how I'm just going to do that now? Okay, I'm just going to say over here, I'm just going to call invoke login, but I'm going to pass in my login function to it, and which, since I'm passing the login function, it will go over here and it will call the function. Okay, so what's I'm just getting some error. What is there? Okay, sorry. This is my function. Okay, obviously. So function invoke login. Right? Now this invoke login accepts a function, which then ends up calling that function. Right? Over here it will be login. All right. So let's just run it. Right. So we have username is and password is undefined. Okay, guys. So if you see for in the first case over here, where it was a normal print statement, it has printed it. So we got some details from register function, we got it, and then we printed that, and we immediately called the login with those details. Right over here we are printing it, but in here I am doing the same thing. I am calling the login function. Now this is where I am calling my login function. Okay, my login is passed as a function over here, and over here I am calling. After that it goes in here and then it prints this statement. but when it prints undefined. So in these cases, how can I pass the parameters to this function, right? Is there a way to do that? Yes, we can. You can just pass it from here. So what if I just write, this is my git at lab.com, and then this is my password. It's very much possible. Now it won't print this undefined and password is undefined. It will print me proper values. But is it the right way, guys? So what if like I have to invoke this login method, let's say every time that I have to log into application? I cannot just hard code these values. I have to use different username and password. So in that case, I have to figure out a way to do that. So that is where you have these apply and call coming into picture. So how it works is, if this is a function, right? So this is accepting a function, and on this function I am going to apply my arguments. Okay. So guys, over here we will also cover the concept of arguments. What is an argument? Way a keyword you can say in a function. So if you see the Java doc, okay, the argument is an array-like object accessible inside functions that contains the values of the arguments. So it is nothing, guys. It is just a simple variable that contains each argument as an array. So over here they have given a very simple example, function 123. We are passing 3 parameters to it. Though I can print them directly, but I can also catch them in a variable or in an object, right? So this arguments will be an object of different arguments that we are passing, and the way we can access arguments, right? Either we can do console.log a over here, or if you do arguments 0, this will also print a. So that is what argument is, and over here you will see the practical usage of it. So what I no, apply accepts basically the first parameter is a this value. So what is this value? So I'm just going to cover this practically now, and the rest of the parameters is arguments, and that argument should be provided as an array. So this is just for definition, guys. First parameter is this value, and second is my arguments as an array. Okay, for this value I'm just going to pass null for now, right? And for another thing, let's say, right, so since I'm passing arguments to it, and where I have to pass my arguments, where I am invoking that method. So I am invoking my login method over here. I'm also going to pass it another 2 variables, so which can be my email address and my password. So now since I am invoking login with these 3 arguments, the first argument being function, all right. So and the rest of the arguments I can simply catch it. This is my argument 1, so this is my argument 0, right? This is my argument 1, and this is my argument 2. So I can just say argument 1 comma argument 2 at second index and at first index, right? Let's just print it. We will also go through it again just to help you understand. So create a what is an issue over here? Okay, sorry guys, I did one mistake. So as I told, it has to be an array like object. That is why this error, right? Create list from array like called on non-object. Okay, so it wasn't an array like object, so it has to be enclosed in these brackets. Once you save it, the username is GitLab and password is 1234. So now you're not getting undefined because you are applying these arguments in order to invoke this function. So now this is actually applying these arguments, and using arguments object, we are catching the additional arguments and we are applying to it. Okay, I will just repeat it once more, guys. This is accepting a function, right? And that functions, if you noticed before, right, we couldn't pass arguments to it. Then we came up with a solution. When we are invoking that function, we are passing first argument as a function itself, which we want to invoke, because login method is what we want to invoke, and we want to invoke with these 2 additional arguments, and all these 3 arguments I can easily catch in here. So if you would see username is GitLab, and let me just print this over here. So I'm just going to print this in my login method, and let's observe the console. Username is and password is, and it is printing a window object. So since we haven't used use strict, right? So this is now globally pointing to my window object. So that is, guys, if you are from JavaScript background, you will understand, but otherwise you really don't need to understand this. Okay, so this is just an example, right? So over here, if I just pass argument 0, which is my function, right, then my this will point to my function. Okay, so I'm not passing null over here. So my this parameter for apply function is my function itself. So then instead of window, it should print the function now which I'm passing. Right, you got that? Username is this, password is this, and the function that we are passing. So this basically refers to the function that we are passing. Or if you don't pass and you are not using use strict, it will point to window object. So that is what they mean by this in apply. Okay, and now apply and call is exactly similar, but instead there is no need to, let me just copy it. There is no need to pass an array like object. Okay, so there is in fact no difference between apply and call, guys. It's just that you have to delete these brackets. That's it. So you can pass in your arguments separated by comma. All right, so it actually accepts arguments in form of arguments, but apply will accept the arguments in form of array. So over here I'm not using any array. I'm just saying my first argument, my second argument, my third argument, and it should also give you the same output. Okay, same output, right? My username is this and password is this. So I have commented apply and I have given a call now. So that was about apply and call. Basically no difference, just the way we call. In apply we have to use the second parameter as an array like object, but in call you can just pass in the arguments itself, right? You need not pass it as an array like object. So what is about bind, guys? Bind is the definition and structure is exactly similar to call, but if I do this, what it will print in console? Let's see. It has printed nothing, guys. So that is the function of bind. Now it is not calling this function at this point of time. Okay, when I'm using invoke logging, right, it is actually binding this function, this entire function, right, and storing it, right? Later we can use it, right? Over here, if I just want to do like let obj is equal to, since this entire thing is returning me a function, a binded function, right? Over here, if I make a call, this should print something in console. Obj is not a function. What I'm doing wrong here? So wait a second, guys. Oh yeah, sorry guys. So I'm not returning it. So you also have to return something, right? Okay, so yeah, so same output, but what bind does is it binds the function to be executed at a later point of time, but you have to return it also, right? Otherwise, right, you can also use directly bind on a method like over here, like I can just do register.bind. If I have to just call directly the register method, right, with my, this is my email at d.com and my password is blah blah blah. Okay, so this will so if I'm printing something inside this method, right, so let's say before returning I'm also printing console.log email comma password. So just for demonstration purposes, guys, I'm going to comment this. Okay, let's just keep it. So GitLab add one to and GitLab and then username and password it has printed. Okay, so that is because we have called the register over here as well. We are calling register over here as well. So it's printing from this line, but it is not printing anything from this line, right? And it will print only if I catch it. Let obj 2 equal to, so now it has binded this register method and I can use it anytime. Now I can, if I do call this over here, it should actually have another console.log 67. Okay, it has printed username but undefined. Why is that? Okay, all right, guys. Okay, so it accepts three parameters, guys. The first is this keyword, right, which I'm passing. For now I'm just going to pass it as null. So that was a silly mistake. So email ID and password. Now it has printed it again, so with the new value. So bind basically binds a method, and then you can use it later, and you can call it. You can also call it using additional parameters, right? If I already have a function, I can just say new value. So this is also one of the use case, but over here, let's say then it has to accept a new value. Let's say this is also accepting a val, and then it is also printing a val. So other methods would fail, guys. So but this bind method should pass the email ID, password, and new value. Over here it's undefined because we are not passing anything from here. But so that is also another advantage. Once you have binded any method, you can pass in additional parameters also, right? But you have to ensure that it also goes in to the main method. So this was all about, guys, call, apply, and bind, right? Basically apply and call are almost similar. It's just that apply accepts an argument in form of an array, and call accepts arguments as actual arguments. You can pass in with separated comma. So bind actually does nothing. It just returns you the function, and later you can call it or you can execute at any point of time. So thank you, guys. That was a small, simple, sweet example on these three methods that JavaScript provides us, and why do we have to use this, right? So what are the use cases? So that's a simple use case. Do like and subscribe, guys, if you like the content, and if there are any, further topic that you want me to elaborate, please do leave a comment, and I will make a video for that as well. Yeah, thank you.